Chapter 33 Chandra Nalaar. Jace had already left, as had most of the others, but Chandra was still on Theros with Nissa, Ajani, Teferi, and Karn, the latter of whom, despite being the living embodiment of stoicism, was, by his standards, impatient to get back to his mission to help the Miran resistance, or what was left of it, by scouting the plain of New Phyrexia. "I have spent too much time away from this quest," he stated. "I'd like to help you," Ajani said. "Or at least hear more about what you have in mind," Teferi added. Ajani nodded. "Such an endeavor will require careful planning." Teferi said, "I would be honored to host all of you at my home of my daughter Nayabi in Femeref on Dominaria, while we devise a workable strategy." "That would be much appreciated," Ajani said. Karn remained quiet for a good 5 seconds, then nodded curtly and said, "Yes." Ajani shook his head and said, "There is a certain irony for me in having this discussion here, of all places." Before explaining, he looked around and breathed in the night air. "Elspeth Tyrell, my dear friend, was leader of the Miran resistance for a time, but once the new Phyrexians had solidified their power, she was forced to flee here, and here on Theros is where she died. I used to hate this plane." He glanced down at Gideon's cairn. "It's funny how one's view of things can change. Perhaps there are worse places to lay down one's burdens. Perhaps." They stood in silence for a few moments. Then Teferi turned to Chandra and Nissa. "Will you be joining us?" Nissa shook her head slightly. Chandra said stiffly, "Other things require my attention first." The numbness was setting in again. Ajani started to speak. Heading him off, Chandra quickly said, "But we will answer your call if you need us." It seemed to satisfy him, though Nissa shot her a look that indicated she didn't necessarily appreciate being included in that commitment. "Chandra, will you be returning to Ravnica?" Teferi asked. "Do you think you'll see Jaya?" "Yeah, probably." "Then you'll tell her where we've gone?" "Sure. I mean, yes, I promise." "Many thanks. Goodbye, ladies. Until we meet again." He planeswalked away. Karn nodded slightly and followed. Ajani gave Chandra a big hug and said, "If we need you, we'll call. But if you need Ajani Goldmane..." "I won't hesitate," she said, forcing a smile for his sake. He returned her offering with a decidedly unforced smile. Then he said goodbye to Nissa and departed Theros. Without looking at the elf, Chandra said to her, "I assume you'll be returning to Zendikar now?" "Yes. You are welcome to come with me, if you like. I have unfinished business on Ravnica, but I'll come soon. I promise." She was making a lot of promises. They approached each other awkwardly, for all her usual heat. Chandra felt like her heart was now encased in ice. She kissed Nissa on the cheek, also awkwardly. "Goodbye, Chandra," Nissa said. As no words would come out, Chandra just nodded in reply. Nissa planeswalked away. Chandra stood there, trying to breathe. Eventually, she placed a hand upon the uppermost stone of the cairn. "Goodbye, kids," she whispered. "I'll miss you more than you'll ever know." And with her heart of ice intact, she planeswalked to Ravnica in flame. Chapter 34. Kaya. The acolytes had gathered quickly in response to Perran's shouting, to marvel at the sudden reappearance of a back-from-the-dead Teo Verada. Ultimately, they were joined by Abbot Barres, a human with dark brown skin, close-cropped steel gray hair, and a close-cropped steel gray manner, accustomed to command. He had arrived on the scene and had with exasperation ordered his charges to help these poor women, not leave them lying on the ground of my garden. Thus the entire ensemble began making their way down the garden steps to the monastery. Teo aided the weary rat, who was considerably shorter than the boy, forcing him to stoop to support a portion of her weight as she gingerly descended. Kaya, who was just behind them and was herself being supported down the stairs by a dwarven acolyte named Theophilos, wondered what the sight of the bent and halting Teo must look like to all who couldn't see Araithia Shakta. Can they see the care and concern on Teo's face, or does he simply look foolish? She got a bit of an answer when Perran, who was helping Jaya navigate the twisting staircase, looked back over his shoulder at Teo and said, "Are you injured?" "No, I'm fine." Rat giggled. Another acolyte, whose name Kaya hadn't caught, ran ahead and opened the great wooden door to the monastery. As she crossed the threshold, Kaya saw that every external surface, whether wood, adobe, or stone, was studded with a veritable armor of gemstones. Diamonds, apparently. Theophilos lowered Kaya onto a hard wooden bench in what appeared to be a spare and empty chapel. She had finally begun to catch her breath. Planeswalking with Rat had been more difficult than she had remembered it being with Jana. Either Jana. Still, despite the resulting exhaustion, Kaya, free of the Arzov contracts that had been weighing down her soul, felt more relaxed and revitalized than she had in weeks. She didn't really want to go back to Ravnica unless she could be permanently freed of her syndicate responsibilities. Of course, I owe it to Tomic to return. Right? Yes, right. Teo was tending to Rat, who was now lying across another bench and shooing off a couple of acolytes who nearly sat down on her. Eventually, he noticed the abbot staring down at him. He swallowed hard and said, "Master." The abbot scowled and shook his head before speaking. "I find myself sadly unsurprised that instead of dying, Teo, you simply wandered off, while all who cared about you dug desperately in the sand to find your body." No, Master. It wasn't like that. It's very complicated and... He trailed off, despairing at the idea that the strange truths he had to tell could ever be believed. "Mistress Kaya, say something." Rat pleaded, her concern for the boy evident on her face. His look of gratitude to her was equally touching. Teo was smitten by Rat, and she was smitten by him. Not that either had done anything about it. For very different reasons, both had real confidence issues. Kaya thought about the way she had, at their age, gone after Jana, making her intentions clear in no uncertain terms. It certainly had sped things up, but she wondered if all that speed had cost her the love of her life in the end. Worth it? Yes, worth it. But to the matter at hand, Kaya cleared her throat to get the abbot's attention. "Abbot Barres, is it?" He looked at her sternly. "It is." I know this may sound unbelievable, but Teo here did not wander off. Without intending to, he planeswalked. He traveled to another dimension, another world, and it was fortunate for all of us that he did. We were engaged in a battle against a great evil, and Teo was invaluable to the cause, saving many lives. He saved my life many times over. Mine too, Rat popped in, though only Teo and Kaya could hear her. Teo shook his head, saying to Rat, I don't think I ever saved your life, though you saved mine more than once. I'm trying to help, Rat said, and punched him weakly. Of course, to the abbot, and the acolytes, and even to Jaya, it seemed as if Teo were contradicting Kaya. Abbot Barras said, I'm relieved you make no such pretense, Verada. Jaya said, He's being modest. He did save Kaya's life, and mine once, and many others with his shields of light. The abbot scoffed. Now I know you're all lying. This boy's geometry can't even save himself. And you expect me to treat this truant as a hero? I wonder, Acolyte Verada, where you found these strange women to lie for you, and to lie for you so badly. I am not lying, Kaya said darkly. No, of course not, Madame Jaya. I'm Kaya. She's Jaya. And where, pray tell, is Madame Maya? Couldn't she be found to join your troop of players? Jaya had had enough. Grasping Paran's arm, she pulled herself up to her feet and said, I do not appreciate your tone, Abbot Barras. I'm sure you'd silence, you fool, she whispered dangerously, allowing flames to dance around her eyes, and the one free hand that was grasping the minotaur to maintain her tenuous balance. I have been many things, but never a liar, nor an actress. But I was the matriarch of Keral Keep on the plain of Regatha, and I hope I was never quite so leaden-brained a spiritual leader as you are proving yourself to be. Keral Keep? Regatha? Can't you make up better names? Jaya appeared to be on the verge of incinerating the man when a desperate-looking acolyte came running into the room shouting, Master! Spotting Teo, his eyes went wide, and his chin dropped almost to his chest. Teo? Barras asked, What is it, Arturo? Arturo stared at Teo, then slowly turned to stare at the abbot. What? Spit it out, boy! It's the Western Cloud, Master. It sends us a diamond storm. Chapter 35. Jace Beleren. When Jace arrived at her offices in New Prov, Lavinia was in mid-conversation with a semi-desperate Chamberlain Marie. Please, mistress, Marie was saying, or begging, really. The Firemind understands that your docket is full now. Quite full? Yes, but we're all very aware. You're looking for a substitute, a more permanent solution for the Senate. All I asked, all Niv Mizzet asks, is that once a new Azorius Guildmaster has been found, you commit to resuming your position as deputy to the Living Guild Pack. I'm sorry, Lavinia said. Then seeing Jace smiling at her, she stiffened and said, Actually, I'm not sorry, Marie. I know Niv Mizzet is running you ragged, forcing you, in Ral's absence, to serve as acting guildmaster to the Izzet, while simultaneously serving as acting deputy to the Living Guild Pack. I know he wants the embassy rebuilt, probably by last week, and I can guess that he has some 16 other projects he's desperate to initiate as well, and I suppose I sympathize. That last word, Jace thought, seemed to stick in the former arrester's throat. But not only will I not commit to becoming the Firemind's deputy, I will commit to never taking on that role again. Lavinia, that's my final word, Marie. You'd best move on and find yourself another option. Marie sighed, nodded, bowed, and exited, walking past Jace without offering him even a glance. And what boon do you seek, Jace Beleren? Lavinia asked, turning toward her former boss. As you can see, I'm quite busy. I can imagine, he said, and he could. As Grand Arbiter Pro Tem of the Azorius Senate, Lavinia was striving to reform the Azorius after the twin blights of Ban and Bolas, while simultaneously searching for her own replacement, someone who could take her place without tearing the Senate apart. Why are you grinning? She asked him crossly. Because I find your predicament amusing. In what possible way? She said, exasperated. Being living Guildpact never sat easily on my shoulders, yet you never had any sympathy for me. It's simply amusing to see the tables turned. Lavinia scowled. Were you always such a fool? Of course I had sympathy for you. As he suspected, that word, sympathy, still gave her trouble. But my sympathy was never going to excuse you from your responsibilities. My sympathy didn't mean you shouldn't do your job. I think that's the nicest thing you've ever said to me. Forgive me. I'm very tired. I can't help wondering if you aren't the perfect choice to stay on as Azorius Guildmaster. Ravnica could do worse than to have rulers who never had the ambition to rule. Are you trying to make me angry? It was not a question. Jace laughed. I'm really not. I'm very fond of you, you know. Azor's Gal, Jace. Don't say that out loud. It's like a curse coming from you. Now, that may be the cruelest thing you've ever said to me, because it feels a bit like the most accurate thing you've ever said to me. Damn it. She sighed heavily. Why are you here? What do you want? He sighed too. I want to know what's going on. I can't locate Vraska's mind signature anywhere on Ravnica. Vraska's lieutenants among the Golgari aren't talking, so I was hoping I could get a straight answer from you. Well, you won't get a lie from me, if that's any comfort. It's the least I expected, Lavinia. It's the most you'll get. As you no longer have an official role in Ravnican affairs, I won't be spilling guild intelligence to you. Lavinia, I know you could read my mind, but I also know you won't. In fact, Jace had been tempted to do exactly that right up until she made that declaration, which is probably exactly why she said it. Who's the mind reader now? No, of course not, he said. Then be on your way. I have work to do. You could say it before I leave. Who knows when we'll see each other again? What are you talking about? What do you expect me to say? What you've resisted telling me for years. Get out of my office? That you're very fond of me too. Get out! He took that as a minor victory and left. But victory or no, the Mind Mage was frustrated. Looking inward, he nearly bumped right into Chandra as he was leaving the building, and she was coming in. She said, Oh, Jace, I'm looking for Jaya. I have a message for her from Teferi. I thought maybe she might be with Lavinia. She's not. Oh, and you haven't seen her either? No. Okay. I wonder if she left Ravnica. He considered for a moment and then said, Chandra, I think something's going on with the guilds and with some of the planeswalkers, including Jaya and Ral and Vraska. What kind of something? I don't know yet, but, well, given the way everybody's striving so mightily to keep me in the dark, I'm worried it has something to do with Liliana, and I think we had better get to the bottom of it. How? Well, for starters, I need to find a jerk whose thoughts I don't mind reading.